Hey everybody, Tony Beers here again, and this is Movie Grades, and in this Movie Grades I'm joined by
Russ,
Tyler,
Jay.
And in this episode of Movie Grades we're going to be reviewing Ready Player One.
Alright, well, let me start off by saying, ultimate 80s throwback, oh my god, and like, I just could not believe all the pop culture references. I did not expect this. I mean, I heard from other people, like, all my friends, like, they said, like, oh, the Iron Giant's in it. And the thing is, I love Iron Giant, so, like, they're like, go see it. So, I mean, I was, like, kind of busy with work and everything at the time, so, like, eventually, like, all my buddies, like, said, we're taking you to see this. And, you know, it's good that we saw it because it was a little bit, like, before it was out of theater, so glad I saw it. I mean, a lot of, like I said, pop culture references. That's what I love most about the movie. I mean, great story, too, and plot and all that. I mean, and, like, the CG mixed with the live action, that was awesome, too. Like, something straight out of, like a video game and everything, and like all the references, like especially to the Atari games, and an adventure, one of my favorite Atari games. And yeah, if you love 80s stuff, and like definitely see this movie. I mean, and I just want to say one thing: that Donkey Kong Jr. poster in that room in the movie, I want that damn thing. All right, whoever wants to go next.
Who's next?
well, okay, since he mentioned if you love the 80s, well, the 80s is like the greatest decade as far as I'm concerned. I was not as excited for this movie as Tyler was. I more saw the movie as it was a fun popcorn flick, and that's really all it was to me. Honestly, I could have waited to see this on DVD. Yeah, I know, that's a big drop from what Tyler said, I know, but it was one of those movies where it was essentially, folks, you've seen this plot about a million times, you know, this dystopian future, this one corporation winds up wanting to control everything, they gotta beat those people, and there was some pretty CGI window dressing. To me, that's what it was. I mean, they were nice, the references and everything, and for an autistic nerd, a lot of the references they made were very impressive, I won't lie, but that's really all it was to me. I mean, again, we've seen this plot a million times, and there was really nothing for me done with it that was like really unique to the point where I'm like, wow, okay, they really blew us. Like, oh, I'm so glad I saw this. No, seriously, I could have just waited for DVD. It was fine, but nothing. But here's the kicker: and it wasn't any marketing into this. I was hearing from my coworkers, "Oh my God, this movie's so great, Russell! You gotta see this. How have you not seen this? Really, coworkers? You thought this was something I absolutely had to see? You don't know me well enough yet, do you?"
Well, they knew me. That's why they told me to see it, and even Tony agreed. Yeah, it's a Tyler movie. So, Jay.
Yeah.
Well, I really enjoyed this movie. I liked a lot of the pop culture references, like King Kong and Godzilla. And the list goes on and on. I could be here for hours. I'm not going to go through. But I like the story. I think the story I enjoy. I really enjoyed the story. The CGI was well done. I mean, I think with time CGI just has gotten a lot better. I like the characters. I like how they have like an avatar, like it's a VR virtual reality world called the Oasis, and basically if you go into the world, you know, you can do whatever you want.
Be whoever you want.
Be whoever you want. You can do whatever you want. You collect coins in the game. If you do certain things, you can unlock artifacts. But if you die in the game, you basically lose everything. Also, T.J. Miller was in this movie too. That was actually a big surprise because I mean I knew he was in this movie before going into it, but just seeing his name it was actually interesting to see him because it was also T.J. Miller was also also a protagonist. No, I mean antagonist because usually usually what I've seen him in, he's usually either good or he's
Comedic.
or comical or like a mutual character, but seeing him as the baddie or one of the baddies in this movie, like he was a Sorrento's right hand man in the Oasis. So seeing him,
But I like to interject. I did think he was funny though. Even though he's a bad guy, he was like a funny bad guy.
he still had his wisecracks
Yeah.
about the whole like neck thing, like like if I had a carpal tunnel, it would be like in the
Yeah.
neck or something. That was like,
Yeah.
and could you stand to my whatever side of him? Because just so I don't have to like turn my. And then one scene, he's like, Sorrento like offers him like to put a head on a bounty on Wade Percival to wipe him off the leaderboard or the scoreboard, whatever you want to call it. And it's funny. He goes like triple my. He's like triple my fee. He's like, and then Sorrento goes. He's like yes. And he's like, I should have asked for 5. He says there's 4 still on the table. That was funny.
Yeah.
I think he was comic relief, but I really liked him.
But he was still
I rock.
a little scary.
I rock.
Yeah,
Because he had that skull with the holes in it. Yeah, that was awesome. But getting back to the scoreboard, basically this movie is based around Jim Hallway, the guy who created the game. And
Essentially, upon his passing, before he passed away, he put an Easter egg into the game, and the Easter egg involves playing the game to find 3 keys that Halliday had hidden deep in there, and when you get to the 3rd gate, you could to where all the keys fit in. The door inside will lead you to all the stakes that the shares that Halliday owned upon his passing. So you would be in full control of the game from that point on. If you could beat those areas and find the keys, but they were very well hidden in the game.
And you go from rags to riches.
Yeah. Plus, you
in the real world.
you would own his company and like $1 trillion or something like that.
$500 billion.
Quite a tidy sum.
And on top of that, if I'm not mistaken, the game seems to interact with like the world economy or something. So you have a lot of power in the world essentially once you get all this.
Yeah.
So obviously, Halliday didn't want to make it easy for anyone to get. So he had it really deep in. You had to figure out a lot of clues and everything. And Percival and his crew kept going to the curator to watch over moments in his life and figure out a lot of clues based on those moments in his life.
And they figured out, and Percival figured all of it out. And, alongside with his buddies, which eventually they called themselves the High Five, right?
Yeah.
Or High Five, Five Alive, whatever. Like, one of the other characters I really like was his best friend in the world, like from even before the movie started. This was prior to the movie, or prior to the book, as he was friends with this one character in the game, H. Yeah, and then his buddy H which we find out later on, because H actually tells him, like, what happens if Artemis is like a 30-year-old man living in his parents' basement? Named Chuck. And then it ends up that H is actually a 30-year-old woman.
Yeah.
When they all met up in Columbus. They all met, and that's where it takes place. It takes place in Columbus, Ohio, because apparently Columbus is the fastest growing city in the world, probably because of this game.
Because that's where the game started.
The game was created. But the thing is, what I don't like is, why would you have these 2 Japanese kids? You would think, because I was thinking these 2 Japanese characters were actually from Japan. Because if you think about, okay, so Columbus is very advancing in this, but what about Japan? Japan's a very high advancing place for games and technology, so why aren't we seeing that? And I could be like, well, maybe they could have, maybe they could have thrown something in, maybe they were visiting somebody in America or something at the time, or something, because I feel like because all 5 of them met up, and it's like they all lived like even he said, like he even said to Samantha, who's Artemis is the avatar of Samantha.
Yeah, they could see
it's like Liz in my back. She was like always in my backyard this whole entire time. It's like,
yeah, it's very convenient. For the story.
It's actually, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that was actually one of the biggest problems I had with the movie. Essentially, they really didn't give you the opportunity to invest in the characters outside of the video game. And because of that, for me, the stakes weren't as great as a result. Like, if I don't care as much about the characters outside the game, why should I care as much about how things end up inside the game?
And the other thing I was thinking about is H, like Helen. That's Helen Harris. That's the real life player. She just comes right in. It's like, where was she? Did Samantha know her beforehand? And I feel like, I don't know if Samantha might have known her or something, because I feel like
I don't know about No, I don't think they knew each other, but like the Japanese kids
Knew her.
and
they
knew her
all
because they
knew
were in that van together, weren't they?
Yes.
So, but yeah, the Samantha didn't know him.
But
Because she came out of the building and they're like,
What's
she's like, who are these people? You know, no, she didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to say from my point of view is I'm more leaning towards Russell on this because the movie, for me at least, it seemed as though it didn't know what it wanted to be. Like, part of it seemed like it wanted to be like this kids movie, and part of it seemed more like an adult movie because it had a lot of swearing in it. But the overall story was like it felt like a kids movie, and it was a Steven Spielberg movie, and it felt like his movies from the '80s, like like Gremlins or something like that, which he produced. He didn't direct.
Love Gremlins. Sorry to say that.
Or E.T. is more okay.
I'm
That's one of the-
actually surprised you said, because usually you say, "Oh, I'm a sucker for anything like this," but this time it doesn't appear that you were pulled in as much.
I think I liked it more than you did, but I definitely didn't like it as much as Tyler. Like he said, I came out of the theaters like, this is a Tyler movie.
And that's funny because like you're from the '80s and I'm not. So.
Right? Yeah. Well, you know what? That's a good point. Is that I think if I saw this in the '80s, I would have loved it. If I saw this when I was 13 or so, I would have loved it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Now at my age, it just. Well, like Russell says, it's very cliche. Like, I've seen this story a billion times. You
And
know,
done better.
I wonder if it's just pop culture fan service.
Yeah.
It could be. I mean, that's what it was for me, basically.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think, and I don't mean by marketing standards, but by word of mouth, it was just way too overhyped.
I love the trailer. I was so
The
excited
trailer was awesome.
to see this movie, and frankly, it's disappointing. But I didn't hate it. I still enjoyed it. I loved all the pop culture references. I was seeing stuff that you guys weren't seeing. You guys were seeing stuff I wasn't seeing. You know, you could watch this movie a million times and see something new each time. So that was cool, and you know, I love the '80s music. So I'm glad that those were in there. So there was a bunch of things that I liked, but it was well, okay. When we went to a restaurant later on, and I said they could have just retitled this movie the Easter egg movie because
in the end it was ends up being an Easter egg
Yeah.
off the game event. Oh, that was the other thing, and the whole Atari thing was in this game.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny how they had this advanced technology with VR, but the whole Easter egg thing went back all the way to
the
like the
80s.
Atari, like a system from the late '70s, early '80s.
Tony said this should have been called Easter Egg the Movie. This actually reminds me of a scene towards the end of the time where Simpsons was actually funny. It reminds me of Abe Simpson and his girlfriend go see this show called That's Familiar,
Yeah.
and this is what it pretty much reminded me of. It's just like all these things we just remember, oh yeah, I remember those things, okay. It's like, that's pretty much what it reminded me of. That's familiar, and it's just like, you know.
Yeah, and one thing I always thought was maybe it's kind of strange is I believe the movie took place in 2045.
It did.
And it's like 24. The 80s is ancient history by 2045
Yeah.
standards, so it's kind of like I don't know. Everybody seems to have a nostalgia for the 80s.
Yeah, I mean,
when
I
they
would
weren't
like to see
around
like something
then.
like maybe with the '90s in it. I mean, like hell, throw some Nickelodeon stuff in there. Have the characters
yeah.
getting
By the
songs.
time 2045 comes around, I think that'll all be ancient history, and whatever's popular in 10 years will be the popular thing.
Well,
then.
fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, so
But I also love the '90s, so I just had to throw that in.
for some reason it became popular. 80s becomes popular again.
'80s
in
been
the-
pretty
in the
popular
future. I don't know why.
But that's our
it's like-
generation, though.
Yeah.
Like
That's now. though,
this
man.
decade.
So yeah, I just thought that was strange. So should we give our ratings?
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna give it a C+. Like I said, you know, pretty to look at, but when it comes down to it, it's just a basic popcorn flick. Honestly, folks, just make it a rental, and you won't be disappointed. That's all I can say.
I'd have to say a B. I mean, yeah. I mean, I loved like the pop culture and stuff. I mean, but that's like really all it did for me. I mean, a good plot and all that, but especially with what you guys pointed out. Yeah, I mean, I guess it could have done better, but still, I'm giving it a B.
That's very surprising. I think you'd give it.
Yeah.
Well,
Like I said,
yeah,
this
like
is
I
a-
said, I mean, you guys pointed out some good stuff that, like, you know, I didn't really, I didn't see it from the angle you guys did, so there you go.
Jay?
I still enjoy it a lot. I mean, I'm not going to give it anywhere in the A range, but if I have to give it a high enough grade, I'll go with the B plus. I still like the movie a lot on a lot of the visual effects. I still like the story. I still like the whole dungeon thing, like getting these keys and stuff. I still feel like it really pulls like a gamer in, like something you want to see like in a gaming movie. And whatever Steven Spielberg had to work with the book, I think he did a very excellent job on what he had to work with. So B plus is my final grade. And you, Tony?
So yeah, I'm not a gamer, and I'm not that young, so this movie really isn't my thing. But I did enjoy. I enjoyed the references. I thought it was a decent story. If I saw this when I was 13, I would love it.
Yeah.
But it's really just not for me, and that's just what it boils down to. Is just not really for me. That doesn't make it a bad movie. So I'm gonna give this. This is probably the same as Russell. That's like a solid C plus. I think that's pretty good. So I'm Tony Beers,
Russ.
Tyler,
Jay?
and we'll
see you later.
time.
Next time, sorry.
This video is sponsored by the Crazy Kings of Toys. Check them out for all your toy needs and find out why they are so crazy. Find them on eBay, Bricklink, and Facebook. Links are in the description. For more Toxic Pop, visit our website at toxicpop1.wixsite.com/toxicpop. Email us at toxicpop1@gmail.com and check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/toxicpop1 and Instagram at instagram.com/wearetoxicpop. Links are in the description.